Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast. Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
Is it amazing to you that, like, podcasts, I think, have made it? Because, you know, we talked about this the first time you were on, that you and I met years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
And so I feel a little bit of it, but even more so with you going on shows like X-Pac Show and Edge and Christian Show, that the podcast world has made it so that these guys that, you know, you were cool with back then that maybe you'd never talk to again, now you've got this great excuse to kind of sit down and talk to them for like an hour about wrestling that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I get to see those guys when I do signings for my book, and we do, you know, appearances and stuff. And then Edge and Christian had me on their show.
Yeah.
You know,
on the WWE Network show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally reeked of awesomeness. Hopefully there'll be another season someday. And but yeah, it was just, you know, to get to see those guys, and then, you know, they know the story behind what Rodney and I had to go through and everything, and, you know, they know there's a story out there.
Yeah.
And that was the best part. You know, just you get to go to those signings and you see these guys that you hadn't seen in a while. It's like a class reunion.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I would probably do it for a lot less money, you know, just to get to see those guys again. And,
yeah.
You know, like you go to WrestleMania, you know, that week you see guys at WrestleCon, or, you know, at the shows or wherever you go, you know, your hotel lobbies or whatever. And that's always so much fun, you know.
So have you found that, like, because obviously generations change, and it's like now whenever you go backstage at a show, there's going to be less and less faces that you know, right? Because, you know, stuff changes. But I feel like this generation that is there in WWE right now all grew up fans during the Attitude Era. So have you been approached by guys that, like, you might not, you know, that you didn't work with, that are really sitting there going like, dude, Pete Gas, I grew up with.
Like New Day.
Really?
Oh. Like Xavier Woods. We were in Dallas when we went to see Shane wrestle Taker. And we went to the after party. And, you know, Xavier Woods, he popped when he saw me. And, you know, he was hanging out with Jericho. So I went over to say hi to, you know, just to go see Jericho and everything. But then Xavier, you know, I'm a fan of the New Day.
Right.
And, you know, to have them feel the same way about the Mean Street Posse was awesome. I mean, it just, you know, that's really cool.
And it's so, and you realize that maybe the Mean Street Posse had some influence over that, right? Because New Day obviously is operating as themselves. Like, a lot of what they do, they're just doing what they do as people heightened. So you have to believe that if they grew up as Mean Street Posse fans, some of the entertainment aspect of what the Mean Street Posse was is going into the entertainment aspect of what the New Day is, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you look back, and for them to go and make that, you know, come back and say something to me about how much they enjoyed it. Yeah. And then, you know, obviously I'm saying the same to them. So it was like, it's pretty flattering.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So you are, what do you think, you know, before we get into you?
Okay.
My theory going in right now, because you still watch pretty regularly, right?
Yeah, every week.
Right.
Yeah.
So as much as WWE and everybody says that Daniel Bryan is not coming back, I really firmly believe that in 2018 Shane and Bryan are going to have a match.
Don't you want that, though?
Of course. And I almost feel, man, that's probably why, right? Like, because they're making us so hungry for it. I'm like, there's no way they'd be making me this hungry for it only to disappoint me.
Two stiff guys.
Like, we know from the last show that you have no idea, because all Shane does is kayfabe you anyway.
He did. Absolutely.
He didn't tell you when he was returning.
And he wouldn't tell me.
No, he wouldn't.
No.
Do you think that we're going to see that match in WWE? As a fan, I'm asking you, not as like
a as a well-educated fan, I guess.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see it.
You do.
I do think.
You think that we will see, and it'll be in a WWE ring.
Oh yeah.
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 Because they say, because they say, you know, I guess Shane, but they say that Daniel has said, like, I'm going to come back to wrestling. Hey, Lila.
Yeah.
Bryan said he's coming back to wrestle. If it's not in WWE, it'll be somewhere else. That's kind of been his line for like a year now. Which is, but I'm sitting there going, even that line leads me to believe that WWE is going, that's not happening.
He's not going to wrestle Shane if it's not in the WWE ring.
Right,
you know?
That's true. Yeah, so. Yeah. But you'd be excited about seeing that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I've known Daniel since he was 19 years old.
Where'd you meet him?
So when we got sent to Memphis, we were there for about a month or so, and then 4 guys from Shawn Michaels' school came in, and it was Daniel Bryan,
Right.
Lance Cade, Brian Kendrick, and then another guy, Shooter Schultz, he was really good too. And the 4 of them were taught by Shawn to be stiff.
Really?
Oh yeah, and they were told, make sure you. No, dog's fine.
No, I know. Lila's just you're sitting there trying to tell your stories, and Lila Garrity.
I can do 2 things.
You're right.
But anyway, yeah, they were told. Shawn taught them, no matter how much your opponent bitches and moans, continue to be stiff. You can just
Give him some of that SummerSlam '96 stomp on Vader's face stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was adamant about it. And sure enough, they always were. And I remember when these 4 guys showed up, I remember working Daniel. He was American Dragon.
Right. Was he wearing the mask?
And the mask and
with
everything.
the blue and red mask or something? Yeah.
Yeah. And and those guys were like way advanced. You know, they came out of that school. You know, they were home. 18, 19 years old, and they were, like when we were watching sports or going out with our girlfriends, whatever, they were home watching Japanese wrestling, like tapes.
Tape traders,
Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Constantly. That they lived and breathed the sport.
Yeah.
So they were...
and they looked at it as a sport, not like as
Yeah.
in like this is entertainment that we get drunk and watch. Like it's a sport.
And then they would see a move, and then they would be like doing it to each other, like in the living room of their home.
Right.
Where their apartment where they were staying.
Right.
And it was, it's pretty cool. We had a nice group down there in Memphis.
Did you so when you start interacting with stuff like that, because we talked last time about how guys were stiff with you, but you would almost welcome it. You were such a person who respected the business.
Yeah.
That you welcomed being hit hard because you like wanted to show the guys that you respected it, that you were taking it seriously, and
Absolutely.
At any point did you decide, well, I need to start working stiff so people know I'm not just Mean Street Posse, Shane's friend, Peak Ass, I'm an actual worker?
If I got a potato, you have to give a receipt, because if you don't give a receipt, then you're going to get taken advantage. You're going to get eaten up in the ring constantly.
Did you know that right away, or did it take a couple of times before?
It was kind of a combination of both.
Right.
I kind of knew about it, but I didn't know when to pull the trigger on it. And then
because you say that, right? But if you're a rookie and like JBL is laying into you, you might not even be taking JBL. Like that might not really be JBL laying into you. It just hurts. You start swinging back early.
Right.
And you're not, now it's all of a sudden, whoa, the attitude on this kid.
Well, that's a funny thing. So I have a good story about that. I did a signing over the summertime down in New Jersey. And it was myself, Kevin Thorne, and Bob Holly. And I thought I love this story. I actually get, you can see the goosebumps.
I see him, there's goosebumps, yeah.
I get so fired up. I get so passionate about this stuff. So we did the signing. I go to leave. I put the books I didn't sell in the car. I came back to...
Only a very few, by the way.
Only a few.
That's right.
I go back in and to say my goodbyes, and as I'm walking away, Bob grabs my wrist, and he goes, I want to talk to you. So I said, yeah, Bob, what's up? And he goes, I want to tell you something. Can I swear?
Sure.
All right. He goes, you are one tough son of a bitch. And I just laughed. I thought it was funny. And he goes, I said, why? He said, I don't know if you know this. He goes, but we used to talk about you and Rodney when you guys weren't around in the locker room. And we used to see who could break you guys.
So these conversations actually happening. It's not even like it's like this sort of in the back of my mind, oh yeah, I guess I was trying to break you. It was, no, tonight we're going to try to break the posse again.
Yeah, like they saw who was on the card. And so it was Bob Holly. And he said, he goes, we used to see who could break you guys, who would make you guys bitch and moan, literally like start a fist fight, whatever the case was. And he said, Pete, he goes, we went out to the ring, and he goes, I hit you with everything I had. I swear to God, he said this. If you ever have him on, you got to ask him.
I will.
So he said, he goes, I hit you with so many things, and he goes, I was hitting you for real. He goes, we get backstage. He goes, you're smiling, you're laughing. And he goes, I couldn't break you.
Yeah.
And he goes, then I got to go in the locker room, and I got to get my balls busted by JBL because I couldn't
get it done.
Yeah, and it was going, and it was in the guys. It was Benoit. It was JBL, obviously.
Holly.
Bob Holly.
Yeah.
Like, there was a whole crew of guys that used to literally try to break us and just see what we could do, just to see how we were. But he said to me, he goes, that day, he goes, you totally earned my respect. He goes, because I hit you with everything I could. He goes, and you just said, you came back laughing, big smiling, thanking me.
So what's the difference then between like, okay, taking punishment and earning respect versus taking punishment and being like, okay, we can pound on this kid all we want? Because there's two different ways that ends up. Like, you take everything Bob Holly's got, and either it's going to be like, okay, this kid's tough, or it's going to be, okay, this is our punching bag now. Right?
The difference, I think, is that I didn't, like, I liked it.
You're not complaining about it. You didn't come back like, oh.
If you show any, and I said this, thank you, because you just reminded me of part of it. He goes, I said to Bob, Bob, truth is, it didn't hurt. I'm being honest. Not that I'm downplaying what you do.
Right.
I said, but I grew up with two older brothers, and they used to beat the hell out of me.
They did.
Oh yeah. and if I said something, they would do it more.
Right.
And I learned at a young age, if you bitch and moan, or if you go tattle on them, or whatever, you're only gonna get your ass kicked more.
You know, it's really interesting because this has been a philosophy of mine, and I've actually tried to explain the premise to people outside of wrestling completely, like just as a life philosophy. I feel like in any business, I feel like it would probably work in prison. I feel like wherever you go,
You're right.
the idea of baby facing and no selling
Right.
is all you need in life.
Right.
Like, I feel like what you're talking about right now is sold, not by no, I'm not talking about in the ring.
Right.
I'm talking about when you get back, sell by not complaining, not looking pained, and then you babyface by still being Bob Holly's friend after all this.
Saying thank you.
And if you do those two things in anywhere in life, wrestling or otherwise, I feel like you'll probably succeed.
Right. So when I was in the early '90s, I was a mailman, which was funny because I was a mailman on Edge and Christian's show, so I knew how to do it.
Which, by the way, had you actually gone to the WWE under conventional standards,
right,
you would have been the mailman.
The mailman.
Right. That's how it would have gone.
So when I was a mailman, I know why people go postal.
Mm-hmm.
There's a total reason why people go postal.
Why?
Because it's the same crap every day. You're sorting your mail, and those guys in there, they find the weak link, and they just break the guy's balls.
In the post office.
Post office.
That's great.
I've seen it.
You know, and it's amazing because everybody goes like, oh, bullying and wrestling, and this has to stop.
Right.
And you're here to say it's everywhere. It's the post office.
And I said there was one guy, like every day he was pulling one of the guys in to meet with the postmaster and the shop union guy and all that. And he would complain, and finally one day, because I understood from being a kid getting my ass kicked. I said, if you don't show that it bothers you, they're gonna leave you alone.
Right.
And he didn't get it. And he got his balls busted.
He just wouldn't believe
Those
you.
are the guys that come back with guns and shoot everybody.
Right.
And that was.
And it's like you want to tell him, like, we fuck with everybody. If you would just calm down from the beginning. Right. We wouldn't have kept pushing until you came in here with a gun.
So no offense to any of the mailmen out there.
Right.
But I know what you're going through, and I understand how it works, and it's monotonous, man. It really is. It's brutal.
Well, that's one of that's where it happens, right? When you're on one of those tracks, they're just monotonous, and it's the same thing every day. Mm-hmm. Some personality types, the only thing that you have to keep you from going insane,
right,
is to just bust balls, right? Because otherwise, it's the same thing every day. You need some kind of emotion, to be shown. And it's got to be somebody else's frustration, maybe.
Yep. And I would just sit there. I'd put my mail. I'd listen and just laugh.
Right. It's a show for you.
As simple as what station the radio was on, and they would just give the guy grief. Just like,
but every time he'd be like, "What do you mean?
Unbelievable."
It'd be great.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So, when did you start? Was there ever an issue where you're like, I gotta swing back here. I gotta hit back, because obviously in that scenario with Holly, you didn't hit back hard, or did you?
Yeah, I mean we got our licks in at WrestleMania 2000.
Mm-hmm. That was the multi-person hardcore match, right? Yeah. Right.
And there, everyone was beating everybody.
For real.
Yeah. And before when we first were going over the match and who was doing what and what spots, I remember JBL was like, "Listen, guys, this is WrestleMania." He goes, "Lay it in." He goes, say your sorries backstage afterwards. And we did. I mean, we were swinging things at each other. And there was no joke.
Well, it's one of those things, too, in a multi-person hardcore match like that where you've got limited time, you got multiple pinfalls, it's real easy for that not to be taken seriously. If you don't lay that in, then it's just like a sideshow grown men playing, right? You've got to do something to make people believe there's some kind of threat of danger.
And to be honest with you, I guarantee I had a concussion. I had crimson mask. I had blood pouring from my head because Viscera hit me with one of those box fans, and he tore my head. That box fan, I don't know who put that thing in. But it tore me open. Crash Holly. I want to say Thrasher. I forgot who. There was. I wanted to say there was at least three or four guys that thing busted open. But Viscera hit me. I remember going down, and I'm on the canvas. And if you go back and watch after Viscera hits me, you could see a hand reach over and point at me. And I remember feeling this, I thought it was sweat coming down right down my face. And the guy in the front row who's pointing says, Pete Gas is bleeding. So now I look down because I'm on my stomach. I look down, and about the size of this thing, about 6 inches in diameter, I had a puddle of blood.
Do you start freaking out the first time that happens?
Hell no.
You don't? Because you're all adrenaline up.
Fine.
Yeah.
So what I did was, I tried pushing more out.
That's so yes.
Because you got to get the effect.
Of course.
Right? So
what's the point of bleeding if it doesn't look good on TV?
You got to get the juice.
Yeah, yes.
So if it's there, I got it the hard way. I got to keep going with it. So I literally try to push it as much out as I could.
Yeah, because I guess even if you weren't supposed to blade, you're not going to get in trouble for blading. You got hit in the head with a box fan. This stuff happens.
So I'm pushing that thing out, and then we just kept going. And I remember the blood was in my eyes, and the fight went into the back. Mm-hmm. And then Rodney won the belt. Joey Abs beat Rodney. Thrasher beat Joey Abs. I remember that was my spot. I was coming back out to beat Thrasher, and I was going to spray him with the fire extinguisher, but I couldn't see, and I couldn't tell if it was Mosh or Thrasher that went by me.
Just a guy in a skirt. I don't know who it is.
So I said, oh, man. If you listen close as we're going through the curtain to go back out to the crowd, I said, is this it? Because I couldn't see. I couldn't see. Then when we get out there, I'm like trying to get the blood out of my eyes. We get over and I see the fire extinguisher, and then I'm like, oh, watch, this thing's not gonna work. I'm thinking in my head, like,
Yeah.
So I get the pin out, and I sprayed him, and I hit him over the head with it. And it was great because as I hit him over the head, it sprayed again.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I go for the cover, and then reality hit. You're at WrestleMania, and you're about to lose a belt. But you won the belt.
You just won it.
So Timmy White grabs my wrist, and I let out this, like, it just hit me all at once as he's raising my hand. I was like, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
No one will ever take that from me.
So you just go, yeah, like
I came back and just screamed, and then all of a sudden Taz hits me.
But you had your moment, though.
I had my moment.
That was the one. That one moment.
No one will ever take that from me.
You won a championship as you're just bleeding.
Good juice.
Good juice. That's so funny. But I mean, I always looked at those matches. Like, those matches must be more difficult than even like when I was a kid and I first started, kind of figuring out how wrestling sort of works. You think you know how it works when you're a kid, and you're totally wrong. Right. But when you realize, like, okay, there's some choreography going on here. I would look at, like, big battle royals and just be dumbfounded at, like, how people remembered, like, he goes out there and went and blah, blah, blah. But I think back now on those hardcore matches and, like, what you're describing to me, and I can't believe, because obviously, like you said, there's a plan in action here. It's not just, like, we're randomly passing the thing around. Like, this person wins, and then this person wins, and then this person wins, and everybody's kind of got to remember their spots while they're getting hit in the head with box fans by Viscera.
Right.
That's like...
And in between, it's like you're just ad-libbing all the other stuff in between. You're
just but keeping one eye on what's going on over here so I know what point in the match I'm at.
Right.
Like, that's got to be...
Cool.
But...
Cool. And at Mania.
Mania.
Right.
Like, that's that. So at that point, does your adrenaline just fully take over your entire body, meaning, like, I'm not even, like...
One doesn't it?
That's it.
When you're out there, no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Nothing hurts.
So does that mean that in terms of the actual art of wrestling and figuring out, like, how to perform your moves, when to perform your moves, when the finish is coming, like the pacing of the whole thing, does that kind of just become muscle memory? Because it's just like adrenaline and I know how to do this and let's just go.
Yeah, and then you get to the Triple H Taker level.
Right.
Which is...
Dude.
You have no idea. Like, you talk about goosebumps.
Yeah. I can't even imagine that, especially Triple H Taker level. Like, put in your head, 3/4 of the way in, these guys know they're having one of the best matches of all time.
Right.
Like, in my head, I'd be so worried about screwing it up in the last quarter of the match. But I guess that's why those guys are who those guys are,
absolutely.
right?
I mean, and I know that, Taker would allow the feel of the crowd, and he would base that on what they were doing next, and Taker would call everything out, and certain spots they had, planned, but everything else was feel from Taker on the crowd, on how to get the crowd on that roller coaster ride of getting up and down.
You just follow him.
Yeah, and then with Triple H, I mean, that's one of the things I've really always wanted. It was to just be able to work with him at some point. I mean, we worked with him, but never against him.
Right.
And I've always heard some of the greatest compliments about him. You marvel at what type of worker he is. And for people, I mean, they have no idea. They said he is the easiest person to work, and it looks like you're in a drag-out brawl.
Is that a frustrating thing, like, inside of wrestling, to have a skill set, like, for instance, like we're talking about with Triple H, where the average fan really, like, we all know that Triple H is good, but there are certain skill sets that the average fan has zero appreciation for, because because if you haven't been in the ring, you can't possibly know that or know how important it is. Is that do you think that that's a frustrating thing, or is that just like, no, this part of it is my peers know that I have this, so
I think it's more important that peers.
Yeah, that's what that part's about.
Yeah, because I mean, he's doing his job. I mean, what he's doing for work. I mean, he's he's just way above everybody else.
Yeah,
and like one of the signings I did recently, Maven. Mm-hmm. He and I got to talking a lot, and
which is probably, you guys probably have a lot in common in terms of how you came in.
Yeah.
Because it was both like, you both came in probably the worst way humanly possible in terms of being accepted by the locker room, right?
I think ours was a lot worse than
even worse than Tough Enough.
I mean, yeah. I
mean,
at least he earned it.
Right.
And we were there. We got an opportunity. We made the most of that opportunity.
Right.
And if we didn't, we would have been gone after a couple of weeks. But
you were I guess that's true. I mean, he came from a reality show, but at least he won it. Like, you were just Shane's friends.
Right.
Right.
And it was something that we were, we got an opportunity through Shane, but because of the reaction of the crowd, and then eventually the hard work, that's what kept us around.
Right.
And I think the ratings against Briscoe and Patterson being the highest
rated.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
I think that's what kept us there.
So what were you saying about Maven?
So Maven and I were talking about just the business in general, and life and work and stuff, and Triple H came up, and he was talking about, and he raved, and like you're listening, and the people at home are watching this or listening to it, and they're interested because of the content. That's how I was. I mean, I was like literally at the edge of my seat, talking to him.
Just tell me what it's like working with Triple H.
And he just said how they did a match and how it went. He actually said it. I went back and watched it. It was a Monday Night Raw match, and they went on for a good amount of time. I don't remember the exact time. And he said he never got winded, and how they worked, and he knew, like, Triple H knew when to turn it on and when to back, to down, throttle down, and he, they never blew up and got tired and stuff. And
so Triple H, not only in his own conditioning, but he actually knew how to pace the match, so that nobody involved got blown up.
Right.
That's next level.
That's the level.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just, you go.
It's one thing to watch a guy not get blown up. It's another thing for a guy to know how to not let his opponent get blown up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
No doubt. I mean, we got to work with him and interacted with him. Like, he called me a buckethead once. It's on TV. I think it's funny. I laugh every time. Anytime that video comes across, someone sends it to me or something, I laugh every single time because I think it's just funny.
And when he says that,
I have a buckethead.
And that gets ad-libbed when he's on TV.
Yeah.
So when he says that, do you have to bite your tongue so you're not laughing.
And then as soon as it's like cut, I just start laughing, But I have a bucket head. I understand that.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's just no. I'm just agreeing with Triple H, right? He's a genius.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
all. That's all I'm
Genius,
saying.
yeah,
Yeah, genius.
right.
That's all. So how long did it take? Well, no, that's what I was going to ask you. How did the Undertaker take to the posse?
Good. I mean, he's he's looked at as a god there.
Right.
He was,
because I in my head, and again, and you're here to correct me because I'm just making this up, but you've got you guys you were talking about a minute ago, which is JBL and Bob Holly and Benoit, and those guys are here, and I feel like over them is kind of the overseer, and that's the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the daddy.
Right.
Yeah. He's the big dog.
Right.
It's his yard.
And so
no matter what you say.
do you go in there and being like, okay, I'm getting a feel for what this is like? Does Shane smarten you guys up to what politics in the locker room are? Like, hey, stay away from this guy you should know, or he just goes like, sink or swim?
Somewhat sink or swim.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had to, we knew just from knowing Shane and knowing the business kind of before we got in, you got there, you shake everyone's hand. Mm-hmm. There's certain rules, and you shake everyone's hand when you get there. You shake everyone's hand when you leave, and that's the way I don't know what it's like now, but that's the way it is. That's the way it was back then, old school. And that respect thing, you show it, or you're not gonna last too long,
right?
But yeah, we just as far as Taker goes, I mean, he was always there. He was always helpful. He was, and I played dominoes. It was the Godfather and I versus Undertaker and Kane, and then Rikishi and Prince Albert. They were a team, and we would just play for hours.
Really?
After lunch.
You got to play dominoes with that crew.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it started by me watching, because I was always I always loved numbers and dominoes and stuff like that. So I used to always watch, and then I filled in because someone had to go do a pre-tape, and they needed someone to stand in, and I filled in as Godfather's partner. And then I became like I was the guy that was designated to go out to hold the dominoes, which I still have the same pair of dominoes, the same set. Rather.
Yeah, of course.
And I still have them. They were Godfathers, and I have them, and every time I see them, I kind of smile.
I mean, that's one of those amazing things because, yeah, I mean, just because that's what you kind of as folklore, goes through what it goes through. You're like, yeah, that's the Undertaker and his crew, and they like playing dominoes. I don't think that anybody up until right now would have assumed that Pete Gas was one of the dominoes guys hanging out, with the Samoans and with the Undertaker and with the Godfather. Yeah.
But then there was times where we're playing dominoes, and I'm thinking to myself like, how great is this?
Right.
Because I am a fan, and I have been forever. And then so we'd be playing, and there was one game, one of the stories in the book. I tell about one particular dominoes game, and so Kane would sit here and Taker was here, so it went clockwise, and we were playing, and so every time Kane threw a domino in this one specific game, I was scoring points off him, and Taker all he was doing was fueling the fire on Kane, and he would say stuff and just like get on him. He was getting on him and just getting.
Well, like don't let this guy be like. What are you doing?
Like, what are you doing? Letting a rich kid do this, I was a rich kid, even though I had no money in my pocket. But I was a rich kid,
You're from Greenwich and you're playing with a bunch of rednecks. Like that's not. Yeah.
And, he's like, you're letting this kid from Greenwich do this. And so I'm scoring off him. I'm scoring, and Papa, Godfather, is just he's just feeding me. He's helping me. So we're getting close.
Love that they called him Papa, by the way.
Yeah, that's
Papa Shango's awesome. Yeah, of course.
So anyway, we're scoring. I'm scoring off him, and we're blowing him out.
Yeah.
Kane goes and he has the dominoes in his hands, and he looks at me and he goes, "If you score on me again," he goes, "I will chase you. I'm gonna beat your ass." And so,
does he say this with a wink and a smirk? Or
hell no.
Okay, good.
There's no way. So he puts his domino down, and I'm holding my dominoes, and I'm looking at him, and I look over at Papa, and I just I'm looking at dominoes. I'm looking at Papa. Taker knows. Taker knows. He knows. And I went, and I'm looking, and I'm just delaying it, right? So finally I went, and I wound up.
No.
I slammed it. And I said, Domino, mother effer.
Yeah.
And I ran. I took off. Boom, I was gone. He chased me.
He did.
We went upstairs, downstairs, running around the arena. And he wouldn't, and I'm laughing because I'm thinking like, all right, he's going to stop eventually.
Right.
He wouldn't stop. And he caught me.
And what did he do?
He pounded me. I was like, oh man. I was like, and he's punching me in the arm, and I'm like, ow, all right. You know, like, but it was fun though, man. That's the part you miss the most is the camaraderie.
Yeah.
You know? And it was so much fun.
I mean, especially as a guy who's a fan.
Yeah.
Right? Like, are you a guy who's good at keeping your fan part of you in check? Meaning, like, right away you get there and you can be cool. Because there are guys that, like, you know, they could show up in the same scenario as you as a fan and, like, kind of lose their mind because that's another faux pas for sure. You're not going to hang out with anybody.
You don't mark out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. It was more of an honor to be with those guys and to get to know them.
Absolutely.
You know, who they are.
And their place in the business, not necessarily being a fan of them, like, oh, you know what my favorite match was, but their places in the wrestling business and what they've contributed to it and that side of it, which is way different than
right.
I'm a fan of this guy. It's
right.
like, you know,
what they've accomplished,
right.
Stuff like that. I
right.
mean, that's huge.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But you know, I'm more of a fan of them as people.
Right.
And who they are.
Right.
You know, that's the
type of guy that'll kick your ass if you score on him a dominoes too many times.
Yeah, but I mean, they just, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was a fan of theirs before, and a fan of theirs even more so now, just because I know who they are. You know? But
how long did it take you to be familiar on that level with those guys? Because it seems like
I think I was okay with it. I was okay with it from the beginning.
That's amazing.
No, but you got to understand too, and
like,
we were around them.
Because Shane, yeah.
Right. So, like, I did a cover with The Undertaker for Christmas back in 1998. Mm-hmm. I played Santa Claus, and Undertaker hovered over me with a tattoo. He tattooed Santa's ass. And I was Santa Claus. And I was...
Was that for the merchandise catalog?
Yes.
And you're Santa Claus?
I'm Santa Claus.
Somebody's going to find that merchandise catalog now and tweet it to you. Because I remember, like, I vaguely...
Oh, I had to shave my ass.
Remember the cover. That's your ass,
It's
though.
my ass. I shaved it right before I went down to New Jersey to take the photo shoot. I swear to God.
So how does Shane... Does Shane call you up and be like, Gas?
No,
like...
that was guys I grew up with that worked in that department of... what was it called? Creative? Not creative.
Creative services?
No, they did like the T-shirts and the merch.
Sure.
All the merch.
Now it's just like merchandising, but yeah.
Right. So they were the ones that made all the designs and stuff. They needed someone to play Santa Claus, and I remember we did the photo shoot, but we didn't do it like in a side room. We did it in front of everyone. It's like, there I am, just sitting there with my ass hanging out, and Taker standing over it. And
so like you're kind of known as a guy who's a good sport. Who's just gonna like who's a fun dude.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
It's just gonna. I mean, that's great. That's a good reputation to have. So, I guess that's what I'm wondering. Do Shane and the guys in that department, do people in the WWE just kind of before you get there know you as a guy who's like, because you're young. Pete Gas is as fun as his kid. He'll do whatever. You don't care.
Yeah, I mean, those
like he
guys
always wants to just do something. So we'll get him if we needed Santa to show his ass in a magazine. Yeah,
well, those guys
Gas will do it.
The guys that asked me knew I would do it because I grew up with those guys.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah, so they knew that.
Like you grow up with enough with you know hands, this guy over here, that guy over here, that guy over here, and you start to earn a reputation.
And they knew I never had a problem pulling my pants down, so I guess I didn't have a problem with it.
I guess not. Is there anything that now, because you're a married guy now, is there anything that you show your wife is like this is cool, this is the thing that I did, and then maybe is there anything that you are like, don't worry about that part? Like would you maybe avoid the Santa ass cheek catalog and show her everything? Show her all of it.
Doesn't matter.
It's great.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But it's funny because she really didn't watch wrestling, and now she's hooked on it.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Did you bring her back in the day and show her like the Mean Street Posse stuff?
Yeah, she's seen some of it. Probably most of it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm excited because I heard the network's going to have, like, Sunday Night Heat. They're going to start putting that stuff on the network.
Man, I hope so. We were talking about that.
We did a lot of stuff for them.
Yeah. Well, Sunday Night Heat, like, we were talking about that on the podcast a couple weeks ago or something, that there's, like, a handful of shows, like the syndicated shows from when we were kids, like WWF Superstars and WWF Challenge. Like, I'd love to see that. But in the Attitude Era, Sunday Night Heat was not a throwaway show. Like, there was just so much going on back then. Because you also think about it, and a lot of what happened on Heat was pre-SmackDown, right?
Yeah.
Like, you had Heat before you had SmackDown, I think.
You had Jacked was before. Well, we did Jacked before Raw.
No. I mean, before SmackDown, did Heat exist before SmackDown? Existed?
I don't remember exactly, but I know we used to shoot it before
SmackDown. Right, okay.
So we used to shoot it, and that was a show that we shot, and then we went into SmackDown.
But you just had so many guys and so much stuff going on that Heat was full of, like, storylines and stuff. There wasn't this notion of, like, oh, yeah, that's just this hour that we throw on Sunday. That was on MTV. Like, that was a big show.
Yeah. And I remember we did one episode of Heat. It was all about us, Edge and Christian, and Matt and Jeff Hardy. And there were some vignettes throughout the entire thing. And the premise is that Edge and Christian went and got their manager's licenses, which were blue. Which
that was
a joke about it.
Right, yeah.
And
they are blue.
Right,
yeah.
And then so they got their license, and the premise was if we won, we challenged them in the very first segment, Matt and Jeff. We challenged them. I called Jeff Rainbow Head, and we tried to piss
almost
them
as good as Buckethead.
Right.
Yeah.
To get them to put up their titles. For a match, and then Edge and Christian were going to help us win the match. So throughout that episode, like, they were training us. They were making Rodney ride the bike and doing all these things.
It's all coming back to me now. Yeah.
And then I went and got them pretzels or sodas or whatever, and they needed straws and. Yeah, like, we were doing all this stuff and then they came out with us at the end, and we thought we won the match, and we didn't. They Matt kind of turned it around and pinned Rodney, and they didn't have the right angle. They told me as soon as they saw Rodney go to cover, to turn around to the crowd to celebrate.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Matt reverses it, so I'm celebrating in the ring like we won, and behind me, Rodney's getting pinned by Matt. But you don't see it because they didn't have that angle for the episode.
Right.
But it would have been funny.
I mean, but that's just cool episodic television, like storytelling. Not even episode, but as, like, the episode goes on, like, segment here's. Throw this segment on, then a match, then the continuing story over here, and then a match, and then that conclusion at the end. Like, that's cool.
Right.
Like, you don't see that too often.
Right. And the stipulation was if Edge and Christian helped us win, we would give them a shot on Raw for the titles the following night.
Right.
So it kept people
But that's amazing too, because, like, you talk about not being a throwaway show, and not only is it not a throwaway show, but now you've got people watching Heat going, "Oh my God, I think the Posse's going to win the tag titles tonight on Heat from the Hardys." Yeah, like that's this mega event. That's hilarious. What was Rodney doing when you were doing stuff like playing dominoes with the Undertaker and his crew? Like, who's Rodney hanging with?
Rodney was he was playing a lot of video games.
By himself, or did he have a crew too?
There was a crew. Mark Henry, Stevie Richards. They were the video game guys.
Gotcha.
And they would play. I remember college. I forgot what the college football game was. I forgot what the name was.
Yeah.
But I remember Mark Henry had to be. He went to Texas, and he had to be Texas because Ricky Williams was a running back, and he had to be, and he would kill everybody. And but they would play for hours, and and guys would just sit there and it was like a frat house.
So Rodney had just as easy a time getting along with people as you did.
Oh yeah.
It was just
it was the very beginning. After when we came back after our little hiatus after the Briscoe Patterson thing, that's when they decided they were going to bring us back and give us the 3 1-year contracts. That's when people were kind of like, what are these guys doing here? And that's when we really had to start paying our dues.
Because now it's like, this isn't just a goof thing. These guys are actually going to work. Like,
So now it's like, they're back. They're taking airtime. And some guys didn't care because we weren't a threat to them because they were over and they were doing, but some guys didn't feel that way.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine, some of the lower, even mid-card guys that are, like, working all their lives to get something, when you guys come in and get real contracts, not just, like, bid part things.
Right.
Yeah, what are we doing? But at the same time, you do this segment that's the highest rated segment. It's like, that's kind of how this thing works, right?
Exactly.
Like the people who are wanted to be watched on TV are the ones that are going to get TV time.
Right. And I think that's, I don't know, but it kind of all makes sense is that's why we came back. That's why they brought us back.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you? I mean,
I think we talked about this last time, but we were just talking about it before we started taping, and you were saying that you weren't allowed to have an action figure because, I got all the wrestling figures around here. I've been collecting forever.
I see that.
And I was thinking about it today before you came by. I was like, no, there's never been a Mean Street Posse figure because I was like, I'm still waiting for the first person to come in here who's also got their action figure in here.
Right.
But how come? Yeah, because I would think you'd at least have like a T-shirt that's like the tuxedo T-shirts. Why wouldn't they make like a Mean Street Posse sweater vest T-shirt?
Well, who knows,
right?
Yeah, I mean, the same guys that got me to drop my pants,
right?
They came up with back then. They came up with a design for the Green Witch Project instead of the Blair Witch Project, kind of a spinoff. Mm-hmm. And that little symbol was a $, kind of like the same thing. And then there's a whole thing about it's called the and then on the back it was like 3 men that came to the WWF or WWF with a vengeance and blah blah blah, like a whole storyline thing. They came up with all these ideas, but it all got shot down. We weren't back then. Not everybody got those things. Not everybody got a T-shirt. Not everybody got an action figure. No, it was I was shocked that we were able to become characters in the video game.
Yeah,
and we were hidden characters. You had to win X amount of matches to get to us, to have access to us. And Vince didn't want to show favoritism. I found that out through Shane.
So it's almost like you get less.
Well, put it this way: if there's a guy that's been breaking his ass, and and he here comes 2 guys from Greenwich, Shane's buddies, and they get for example, when we went, the company went public, we weren't allowed to buy stock. The guys were allowed to get stock. We weren't allowed to get stock.
Specifically, the posse can't get stock.
We were not allowed to get stock.
Because they didn't want to show
favoritism. We
favoritism.
weren't allowed to get it at the price, which I still remember the price was $17. They were allowed to get it at. And I remember Bradshaw telling everybody when he got to 34, that same day, get out. I swear to God.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a stock expert, so...
They doubled their money. They got out.
Wow.
And that was the other thing, too, is like, and I had heard that was different. Like, guys back then, they had stock tips, and I'll never forget Big Show came in once and he said, hey, there's an IPO coming out. Everyone should get involved. Krispy Kreme. And of course he got a lot of grief for Krispy Kreme donuts.
He's the one who's going to suggest that. Yeah.
He made a lot of money on that.
I'll bet he did. Everybody's laughing at him. And he's like, okay, guys, that's real funny, right?
Yeah. He's like, you guys should buy.
He got in on the Krispy Kreme IPO.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm losing all my money in Bitcoin, so I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, you'd think, look, this is what they're putting out. This Virgil figure, I put a Not Sam shirt on.
I like it.
But this thing came out like this year.
Come on.
This is from this Christmas season. So, you would think,
It would be cool to have throwbacks, right? I mean, they had the 3-dimensional. They took the 3D thing for our heads because of the thing. It would always be cool.
Yeah.
Some fan, back when we were wrestling, put together a Mean Street Posse characters.
Uh-huh.
And I always thought it would be cool, and I bought it for my mom off eBay. Do you
know
how much it cost me?
How much?
$50.
For your own thing that somebody made?
I had to outbid. I'm not kidding you. There was like three or four people, and it cost me $50 to buy the Pete Gas doll. That wasn't even Pete Gas. I think it was Vince's head. We had the same haircut.
And then did you have to put did you have to send it? Like, did they ask Pete Gas? But
yeah.
Are you actually Pete Gas? Did they?
Yeah.
They put 2 and 2 together?
Yeah, they did.
And did you just tell them
and then I gave it to my mother for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then about a month later, the dog walked by with it in his mouth. I confiscated it, so I still have it.
Yeah, but there's some teeth marks in it?
No, it wasn't. Okay. I got it early.
Yeah,
drool, but that's about it.
Because it's one of one.
Yeah,
you can't reach out to the company and get another one. But look, Mattel is doing some weird stuff with toys right now. They put out this Virgil. Yeah. Before this, they put out an Isaac Yankem.
Come on.
They're putting out a.
That's awesome.
Remember when Earthquake
you
went?
Have it over there?
I got Isaac Yankem over there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. Remember when Earthquake went to WCW and he became the Shark?
I do.
He's like the worst. This year they're putting out an action figure of the Shark. Like they're just putting out like the weirdest like.
And no MSP?
I mean, the lane's wide open as far as I can see.
You're the man now. I mean, you're the guy.
I should reach out to them and say,
You
like,
are
at
the
least.
guy.
I mean, you could put together a Pete and Rodney 2-pack and then throw in Joey Abs in
Joey
there.
Abs in.
Yeah, why not?
Right?
Why not?
That would be pretty cool.
Are there any?
You got to show me some of those. Seriously.
I will. I'll show you right
I'm
after.
actually really interested in that stuff.
Yeah, and I just had the guy from Mattel on the podcast, so I will absolutely.
Oh, I got heat with him then.
I'm going to send him a text, and say, like, look, I mean, the people want Posse. Matter of fact,
People want Posse.
People want the
You
Posse.
could have said something so bad right now.
you guys out there right now, tweet at Mattel, whoever you need to tweet, hashtag people want Posse. And get some.
People people want Posse.
People want Posse. Make sure you spell it right.
I got a story now.
Yeah.
So Stone Cold, he said it every single day, but it was funny every time he said it. Mm-hmm. We would be walking by, going to get ready, get dressed for a match or something, and he'd be in the hallway drinking black coffee, and he would yell, "Posse! I thought you said." And then he would say the other word.
Pussy.
Yeah. And and the first time he said it, I kind of looked back at him, and then he just said it every time.
day.
It was like a broken record, but it was funny every time he said it.
I must. I mean, in that Austin voice too, it probably just got funnier.
Oh, yeah.
Like the more he said, like the 100th time was probably the funniest time.
And then there's a big thing of chaw in his mouth, and he's spitting in a cup. Posse. It was great though. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there any story in your book? Because like I think that the one thing the last time we spoke, it was like an hour, and you were like, what's ironic here is we have not even scratched the surface.
Yeah, I feel like
And I think we still there's still, we could do this, I think, over and over and over again until the end of time. Is there any story either in your book, or are there stories that are not in your book?
I don't think so.
Or did you?
Well, there's stories that I kind of kept clean.
Right.
I am married.
But but that's what's great about
that was out of respect for my wife. I didn't want to,
Sure, yeah. That's just
Right.
We got to have a life outside this book
Right.
somewhere, right?
Right.
Right.
Now, if I was single, it would have been a bestseller.
But I think that that's what's so great about your book is that it's just like all these stories that people want to hear.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like a whole. Here it is. Here's the fun stories that you want to hear about the guys that you love.
But the funny thing about the book is, and I guess maybe the timing was. It's never a bad time because it's the Attitude Era. Maybe it's bad timing because I'd been out of the business for a while, and I feel like it's a book that if someone reads it, and I've yet to find someone that's read it that said it sucked.
Right.
And I mean that. You're always going to have someone negative saying, "Oh, he kissed Shane's ass in the book." Well, you know what? I did kiss his ass because if you want to call it that, because what he did for me is something that no one could do for
It's amazing that it's like you can't be. It's not.
It's
he's
genuine.
loyal to his friend. He's
I'm
an
not
ass
sucking up.
kisser.
He already did the stuff. I don't have to kiss his ass.
You're
for
not
it.
trying. You're not kissing his ass for one more run.
Right.
Right.
Not that I wouldn't take it.
Although, I mean, if you're out there, Shane.
But honestly, and I feel like if the way this book is going to really sell is if someone reads it and says, "Hey, this is my copy. You should go out and get this thing, man. If you like the Attitude Era, you're really going to enjoy it." And that's the way it's been with,
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been on a lot of radio shows and a lot of stuff, and the people that do read it really do like it. And the guy that wrote it with me, John Robinson's done a lot of books with WWE, and he and I just talked last month right before Christmas, and he says, he goes, that book, he said, it just doesn't do, like, people are buying it, but they're not as many people as we thought would be. And it's one of those reasons because, again, I haven't been in the business that long. It's been so long since I've been in the business.
Sure.
But he says, I'm so proud of that book. He goes, it's really a good book. And this is the guy, and he's not just saying it to blow smoke.
Right.
He didn't have to say anything.
Right.
He already put the work in.
Well, I mean, I think it's like these interviews that we do. Like, I think that people kind of forget. And it's also like, look, the thing about being in the Attitude Era is the good part is that it was the biggest time in the history of wrestling, so you can put a book like this out.
Yeah.
The bad thing is it's got the most stars ever. So there's a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
And to kind of fight your way through to be like, hey, guys, remember Pete Gas? Like, people will be like, oh, yeah, no. Yeah, Edge and Christian, yeah, I remember those guys. Like, people forget that the Posse worked with everybody. Like, backstage stories aside, the fact that, like, you're playing dominoes with the Undertaker, the fact that Kane's chasing you up and down the hallways, the fact that, you know, Hardcore Holly is, like, being like, yeah, I gave you everything. Backstage aside, like, just from a fan perspective, if you start scanning through the network, you realize that in that era, the Posse worked with everybody. And, I mean...
But the story itself, though, is about how Vince took two guys with no experience.
Right.
Sam, this has never been done before, and it never will be now that with the Performance Center and all the other stuff going on. They don't just take two guys and throw them in the ring.
No.
Without experience.
No.
You'll never see that again.
Especially not take two guys with no experience and then match them up with Briscoe and Patterson, who are like too old, like they're not working a full match, right?
Right.
And be like, here, do a segment. Here's a whole segment of live TV. I'm the highest rated show on cable. Right. Go for it, guys. Here's your 15 minutes.
And that's the thing, you know. I guess people, once you kind of put all those pieces together and realize it's something that's never been done before,
right?
And it tells that story, you know. And it's kind of, you know, it's great for us because it was sure we got the opportunity from Vince, but like, you know, if it sucked or if it didn't get reactions or ratings, we would have been done.
Or
he's not going to have us on because, you know, he's known us since we were in 10th grade or whatever.
It's business.
That's business. That doesn't, you know, just like when we eventually got let go. That was business. Boom.
Right.
Hurt like hell, but we got let go, and that was it.
Right.
So it is what it is. It's business.
Right.
But we had a great run, and we did something that, you know, no one's ever done before.
Well, I would. Have you checked out the Performance Center? Have you been down there?
I have.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Isn't it? Like, can you do you think about that? Like, not that you would have come through the Performance Center, because I don't think you would want to change your journey, but just thinking about, like, in that time off, like either in the time we talked about when you were in Puerto Rico or even in that period of time between your runs in Memphis.
Yeah.
Like, if you had access to that.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no reason, you know, with all respect to everyone that's down in the Performance Center, there's no reason to not get better.
Right. And you watch NXT, and most of those people are coming from the Performance Center, and they are getting better, right?
Yeah. And that's a testament to Triple H. I mean, that's his baby.
Yeah.
Him and Matt Bloom.
Yeah.
Who I love. He's a great guy.
Are you surprised at all to see where people end up? Did you think when you were hanging out with
Matt?
Albert at the time, that he's going to be the guy who's the head coach down at the Performance Center one day, and that this guy's going to be doing this, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean,
or that even the Road Dogg is one of the top.
Not him. I did
top guys over there. Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I'm just because he has this knowledge of the business. Mm-hmm. He knows, you know, like he and X-Pac, and I personally autographed books for them and gave them copies, and I wrote a real nice note about how much they helped me. They would help us backstage, tell us how to cut the ring off when you're doing tag stuff, and the little things, you know, the little things to make a match better, to make it make sense.
Right.
And how much, you know, what they really did. He has that knowledge. I mean, it's in his blood. It's in his family, you know, and he knows that business. And you just knew that he had that sense for it. I mean, at least I did because of the way he helped me. And, you know, those guys, and I wrote to them, you know, about how much they helped me, thank you, but more importantly, just being a friend.
Yeah.
You know, because during that era, when guys were trying to knock our heads off, you know, those guys were helping.
Yeah.
You know,
and they didn't have to.
Right. Edge and Christian, the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, so those guys were, you know, really helpful.
I think X-Pac is it's criminally underrated how much insight he has
no doubt.
to the business. Every time I talk to him, and I talk to him a lot, but like anytime I talk to him, and I've been watching, you know, I'm not a wrestler, as you may or may not know.
No, you're
but, But, you know, I've been watching this stuff for 34 years, all my life. And anytime I'm watching with him, he'll just like point out this little thing, like, oh, I'll go, what do you think of this match? Or, oh, what do you think about this? And he'll just point out this little thing that like I never would have even seen.
Right.
And I go, oh my, like, you're right. Like, he goes, well, no, the way he's doing that ankle right there, he could have done this and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like that, like in the snap of the fingers.
Smoother,
right.
more fluid.
And I go, oh my God, like it never even occurred to me that you could change that, let alone that you could change it to that.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Well, people can get your book on Amazon. Is that the best place?
Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've seen it. It's on store shelves. That's that's pretty amazing,
pretty
huh?
Cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, everybody go out and get Pete Gass's book. If you weren't convinced by the last interview, you should be convinced by this one. And it's great. It's one of those books that'll last forever. Like, you didn't get it when it came out. Buy it now. It's still just as good, right?
Still there. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. This is great, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for entering into the beautiful Not Sam Studios.
I love it.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bud. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, pal.